Generation X. In general terms, those born between 1965 and 1980. Latchkey kids. Independent. Existentialism. Modern philosophy focusing on personal experience, human ability, and responsibility in an otherwise meaningless universe. We're the cause. This is the effect. We're the Gen Existentialists. Welcome in, friends, to the Gen Existentialist podcast. My name is Scott.
And I'm Bunny.
And this is the New Year's edition of the Gen Existentialists. And
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone. Let's have a great ending to this year, a new beginning to the upcoming year. And we've got kind of a little bit of a redirect this week with what we're going to be talking about. Bunny, take it away.
I'm thinking about giving Meg the day off. You know, she's been working like a hoss, if you will.
But look at her; she's weeping.
Oh,
she's weeping. I don't get to take part.
She's like a melting butter pat. You know, it's okay. You know, you've worked hard for the last 2 years, and I'm going to give you the day off because I've been asked to do this exercise, and I thought this is something that maybe you listeners out there could find some use out of, and I'm going to present these questions to Scott as well.
Okay.
Because they're all about finding your joie de vivre or whatever, you know, finding your
How do you spell that?
You spell it like the French people do. And then you know, finding things that bring you joy still. Now, I know that many of our listeners out there are in the demographic of between their 40s and their 70s, actually. At least this is what analytics tell me.
Awesome.
So we've got some boomers, we got some Gen-Xers, we got a few late millennials listening. Welcome to all of you. Something that happens as you get older is maybe you start to kind of burn out on things. Maybe you're not physically or mentally able to do the hobbies and the loves that you used to have when you were younger. I mean, I know going out and doing touch football and all that may not be in your wheelhouse in your 60s. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys out there are in much better shape than we are.
Yeah, I can still run. Kind of, not really.
As long as somebody's chasing you with an axe, you know. It's
even if they're chasing me with an axe, I'm probably better off just standing my ground and trying to fight them.
So, you know, I was on some online forums talking to some other guys and gals in our age range, and they directed me to this simple 6-question sort of thought process, something that you when you ask these questions, you're supposed to write stuff down, think about it introspectively, and it sort of guides you to finding out that you do still have so much passion left in your life.
Is this going to give me like a 4-letter code that's going to tell me what I should try and do with the rest of my life?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, cool.
So, you know, one of the first questions that I want you guys to ask yourself, and I'm going to ask our good co-host friend here, Scott, what are some of the things that you do daily or routinely that are considered hobbies to most people?
Playing music, writing poetry. I was about to say safety. For a lot of people, it's just a hobby. They don't take it seriously enough, by God. But yeah, probably music and poetry and just writing in general. Yeah.
Do you still consider those things hobbies, or are they more just part of who you are, or daily routine?
It's not even routine. They're part of me. I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have music. It is inherently and intrinsically part of me. Having a notebook close by so that I can just jot things down, just random thoughts or lines. And I have to do that. And it's funny, like we're not during the show, but during downtime in the studio, we were talking about the Christmas song that I wrote with a friend. And the song lyrically started with the bridge section that I wrote just off the top of my head. And I didn't have anything else. It took a while for the rest of it to come. And that's why I love having notebooks around, so I can just jot down the basic ideas and then sometimes come back to them days or weeks, or in some cases years later, and finish. Because suddenly, that sparks something, and I can go from there. And that's kind of my life. So, they're not hobbies, but I think most people consider them to be.
Okay. See, this all spurred from there are a lot of websites out there I'm sure you guys are familiar with where it's like hobbies for seniors, hobbies for people in their 50s, hobbies for people in their 40s, the sort of midlife crisis hobby list. And this one is spurred from hobbies for men. Is where the one we were looking at and kind of laughing about. So, I have stuff down here. People consider cooking a hobby. But that's something I do every day. Like, I cook all the meals in the house.
Yeah.
People consider plants or taking care of plants a hobby. This is something that I do all the time anyway because they're living creatures. And you should take care of them. Yeah. Just what you do. Video and stuff was something that people consider a hobby. This is what I do for a living, so I don't consider it a hobby. So fair listeners out there, the first question for you is get a little pad of paper, do your digital or whatever you like, go analog, go digital, it doesn't matter to me, and kind of jot down a few things that you do routinely that most other people would consider a hobby. So the next question is, what are some things that you've done or excelled at in the past that no longer bring you joy? Ooh. This is a tough question, so it's something that, think about that, listeners, and be honest with yourself about what are some of the things you used to love doing when you were young or maybe even just last year that just no longer bring you joy.
Just going out and shooting a basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was never good at basketball, but I could find some enjoyment in just going out and just the physical activity of finding a hoop somewhere and shooting. And you couldn't find anything that I would want to do less right now than that. Actually, a lot of just sports-related stuff. Thanksgiving was always, well, at least for a few years, find a local touch football game and just go play.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they were with people from work when I worked in the forklift industry and stuff like that. And just there's no part of me that has any interest in doing anything like that now. So
is there any reason for that? Is this a physical limitation thing?
A lot of me doing it is physical limitations.
Okay.
And I think even watching, like I used to love the NFL. I used to love football.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stand it now. I love soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I love hockey. I still have an affinity for baseball, but it's waned over the years. But yeah, football, I can't stand it anymore. For a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual doing of that stuff is physical limitations. I'm older. I've got knee problems.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of different stuff. And just having time.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many other things I'd rather do. Would I rather be sitting in here playing bass and maybe working on a song or going out and throwing a football? I want to be in here working on a song. That's what I love to do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's something that, this question, this goal outline here may not be the best fit for my co-host here because we already know what his passions still are, is obviously playing music and all that. But maybe for some of you guys and gals out there, maybe you're a little stuck. Maybe you don't really know what you want to spend your time on. Maybe you're in that rut where you go to work all day and then you come home and you plop your butt down in front of YouTube or the computer or the television and you eat and fall asleep, and that's your daily routine. Things are kind of getting into a grind.
Yeah. Well, what about for you, for the things that you've lost passion for?
Painting. I used to paint at an advanced level with oils and acrylics. And I was selling paintings.
Got a couple of your paintings up in this house.
That's true, yeah. But I just completely lost passion for art in general. It's really bizarre.
How come? Any reason or just stopped?
I think mainly because I never really did art for myself. I did it for other people.
Yeah.
It was always painting a picture for my grandparents, painting a picture for my aunts and uncles or my friends or for some professional, sale somewhere.
Yeah.
And I just never painted for myself. And when I did paint for myself, this is my sainted wife a few years ago bought me an easel and a bunch of paints. And I decided I was going to turn a spare bedroom into our old house into an art studio. And I was just going to spend time in there painting and creating. And I painted 2 pictures, and I hated it. And I got rid of all those things. I sold the easel. I sold all that stuff at a yard sale. I feel bad, but it was shocking to me that it didn't mean anything.
Well, but you know what? I mean, we grow and we evolve. Like, I love playing music. I've been doing it since I was 14. Do I do it the same way? Am I into the same kinds of music? No, that's evolved. And sometimes your evolution takes you away from things. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, other things on the list are, I used to play tennis a lot. Mm-hmm. That was my go-to sport. I used to love running on hiking trails. Yeah. And that's similar to you. I'm getting older, having some knee issues. The idea of running doesn't thrill me anymore. Yeah. Video games were huge for me. I used to love video games, and I still enjoy going to an arcade. Yeah. I enjoyed the ambiance and the sounds and the smells and the whole bit. The feel of controls in your hand and stuff, and being able to move from venue to venue. But I can't really get into home computer gaming anymore. It bores the hell out of me. Yeah. It doesn't hold my attention. I get frustrated with games that go on and on and on and don't seem to ever end. Yeah. It's kind of dumb. So, yeah, and collecting was another one. I used to love to collect toys and music and art. Yeah. And all sorts of little trinkets. I collected rocks when I was a little kid, and now I have so much stuff I just want to get rid of. Mm. Like the idea of collecting again gives me the chills, because it's just, there's just more stuff I'm going to have to get rid of eventually. So yeah. So what are some things out there for you guys that just don't bring you any joy anymore?
And if you're answering that question, think about the why. Yeah. I'm a big fan of why. Yeah. Why always matters. And
the why is super important to that question. Yeah. And it's also important to the next question, which is sort of a counterpoint, or not a counterpoint, but a sub-point to this one is, what are some things that I'm simply no good at or have very little capacity to learn or do? Mm. It's a tough question because you have to be honest with yourself, and then you have to say why those things are something you are not even going to venture into.
Mathematics and science.
As a hobby? As a passion?
Well, because there are all kinds of levels of science and scientists. You can be a citizen scientist. You can be a PhD at a research college. There are all kinds of different levels. As much as I love science fiction, and I love that a lot of that is grounded in some sort of reality, I don't, and I never did have the capacity for it as much as I wanted to. Like, if you ask me right now, Scott, if you could, I'll grant you the mental acuity and ability to be a scientist. If you're willing to switch careers and do that, I would jump at the chance, because so much important work is done in that field. Not that my field I'm in isn't important, but so much interesting work and thought and progression for the human race. But I just don't have it. I would jump at it. And I think a lot of that is because my math skills have always been subpar.
Don't buy this guy a Sudoku book for Christmas.
No, don't. Okay. And it's one of the things I'm having trouble with because I'm studying for another certification in my career. And the thing that is constantly tripping me up is the complex math portion. You can show me the formula. You can show me where to plug stuff in. Wrapping my head around that stuff has always been my Waterloo, if you will. It's where I'm going to die on the hill. Yeah. And it's not just, some people out there might be saying, oh, Scott, you've just got that stuck in your mind. You just need to put the work in. No. By God, I have tried. I'm studying for this exam right now and getting nowhere with it. So I'm basically making sure that the other stuff I am tight on. Yeah. Because I know, I know I'm going to miss that stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, that's
now
it.
Something similar on my list is that I have no capacity to learn music or languages. For some reason, in my brain. I've played keyboard, I've played woodwinds, I've tried guitar. I have no musical ability whatsoever. I can sing. That's about it. But putting me in front of an instrument is like, I don't know, giving a machine gun to a monkey. I don't know. It's just bad news for everybody.
It'll make some noise, but you won't like it.
Exactly. Bingo. Yeah, it's really ridiculous. I have no idea how anybody can write music. I don't think musically. I am almost entirely a visual thinker. So that's one of the things on my list that I just have to be honest with myself, because a lot of people are always like, "Oh, when you're older, and you don't get around as much, you can take up harmonica." You can take up ukulele. You can take up blah, 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 whatever, and play the triangle. Oh, fuck you. That's, it's just something that I know I'm just absolutely never going to learn it. My brain, I can't wrap around male and female
conjugations.
Gendered conjugations. Yeah, I mean, shit like that. It just doesn't work. My mind does not work like that. And I'll tell you something that I had to come to terms with. A lot of the things I listed that I just simply will not do.
Yeah.
They all have to do with patience.
Sure.
I have never been known, as Scott can attest. He's known me for almost 40 years or so.
Yeah.
He can attest that I am not known for my patience.
No, I don't think either one of us is.
So things like puzzles and stuff I find pointless. They infuriate me. Woodworking infuriates me. Yeah. Cutting glass for stained glass infuriates me. I hate exacting things that I have to do just right.
There were so many times, like playing video games, like watching you play Dragon's Lair or something. Bunny could go for an hour on a quarter in Dragon's Lair. Me, a minute. I'm done. My turn's over.
That's 2 quarters for Dragon's Lair, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just didn't have the patience for it. But you mentioned languages.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that at our age right now, so hard. And I remember like in 7th and 8th grade, I took Spanish in middle school and got pretty good. And then freshman year in high school, didn't take any language. Took Spanish 1 sophomore year. And I thought, hey, I'm going to remember this from 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
And I felt like a freaking moron. And then when I got to college, because for the English degree, I had to take another language, took Spanish again. And I'm thinking, because at least I've got some background in it. I know it didn't go well in high school. Again, what's one of the things that was a big dent in my GPA? It was having to take Spanish. Which shouldn't have been the case, but it got progressively harder each time I tried, because there was time in between and all the stuff that I had learned was gone, and your capacity to learn that stuff wanes very quickly. I am the poster boy for that.
No doubt.
Like it. Yeah.
And that's always on a list for older adults. Like, here's a hobby, something you can take up to keep your mind fresh.
Yeah, let's frustrate you into the grave.
That's what taxes are for.
Yeah. No, anybody that would...
And Medicare.
Anybody that would suggest a retiree learn a new language just needs a smack.
So, yeah, that's... And I also put on that list of things that I have no interest in doing is models and model building. Tiny little exacting things that require me to look through magnifying glasses.
Like plastic models, like the Revel stuff, or like building a ship in a bottle?
Both. I have no interest, unless it's a snap together that already comes pre-painted. I have no interest in even bothering with it. I hate the idea of Legos nowadays, where they come up with these, it's the Lego Star Wars Cantina or whatever, and you have to follow all these instructions.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
And the instructions are always terrible.
That's just model building again. It's all...
Now, on the other side, if you offer me a bucket of just Legos...
Sure, yeah.
I'm
you just
all
have a lot
in.
of fun.
Yeah.
That's like I love me some Play-Doh.
Sure.
I'm a visual guy. I'm a dullard, apparently, is what I'm getting from this list. So the question, once again, to you listeners out there is, what are some things that you simply cannot or will not try to attempt in the future, and why? You'll find out a lot about yourself when you figure out why you won't try them.
Yeah.
So the next list, here we go. We're going to go positive. We're going to give you a white pill after all that black pill.
Uh-oh.
I need you to come up with a small list of things that you have an intense passion for or about, and why.
Like things? Physical things or stuff to do?
Things that you are passionate about, that you consider a hobby, something that you enjoy spending your time with doing. Obviously, music is one of them.
Music goes without saying. Writing goes without saying. But I'll also throw out, going back to my education, philosophical questions. Mm-hmm. When I watch a news program or I read the news online or something like that, I'm always poking holes in arguments and pointing out logical fallacies in things people say. That's something that I really, it's not that I enjoy finding that stuff, but I feel like it's exercising my brain. It's doing something that I've got an affinity for and an ability to do. I love proofreading. I love editing. So if somebody's out there and they're looking for an editor, hit me up, leave us a message. I love doing that kind of stuff. Not because I like picking out mistakes or things like that, but if I can help somebody make something better or tune something up and get it from this level to just like another notch, just to help them get better so that next time when they write something, they'll go, I remember we did this. I'm going to make it better myself. I love that kind of stuff. Just like that goes back to like the safety stuff, trying to get better, that continuous improvement aspect of doing things.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of what the question is about. The question is like what lights you up, what still makes you happy to get up in the morning.
Yeah,
do things.
Helping an aspiring lyricist, an aspiring songwriter, find something different or a different way to say things, or just to help them make it better. Or if they've done something amazing, just to give them that feedback. Like, hey, I heard what you did there and that was fantastic. Keep doing that. Mm-hmm. I love doing that kind of stuff.
See, that's awesome. So kids, that's how you put your list together. You find out, even if it's something that isn't a hobby, it's just something that maybe if you think about it visually, turn it around in your head, look at all sides of it, and find out if it's something that you can make into something.
Yeah.
That will give you joy in the future as you age out, as they say. Like on my list, I've got like Dungeons and Dragons of all things. I still get a huge charge out of that.
Right modules, yeah.
That sort of mod decor, 60s and 70s. What do you want to call it? Like Dutch modern, Danish modern, that kind of Helsinki.
We're talking
look.
Like Clockwork Orange meets Blade Runner kind of thing.
Yeah, basically, that kind of stuff. I still love arcades. I love the ambience of an arcade. I wouldn't want one in my house. That was like one of my dumb little goals I wanted to own a video arcade machine. And I did for a short amount of time, and it did not bring me any joy whatsoever. I got rid of it. I donated it to the local Boys and Girls Club in Cincinnati.
Was it because it didn't have the right atmosphere where you had it, and you needed them to go together?
I bought that. I bought a very obscure arcade game. I bought Crossbow. If you remember Crossbow, with the light gun that's shaped like a crossbow. Yeah, and I bought it because I had fantastic memories of me and my father playing it together when I was little, and I set it up, played a few games. I'm like, this is great. I called him and I said, hey, come on up to the house. I want to show you something. He got there. I was like, check it out. I'm like, you could totally play again. He had no memory of it whatsoever. Like he was like, oh, I don't remember playing that game. And it broke my heart, and I couldn't look at it after that. I was like, boy, what a waste of money that was. I had that thing shipped from like Nevada or something.
Yeah.
So I ended up donating it to the local Boys and Girls Club. So like, hey, somebody would get some use out of it.
Yeah.
But that's arcades. Of course, I still love electronic music from the 70s. Talking your Edgar Froese, your Klaus Schulze, these kind of pioneers of electronica.
Yeah.
Things like that still kind of jazz me up. There's not too terribly much on the list that's really hobbies, though. It's little things.
Yeah.
Things like that. Back roads. I love driving back roads all over America.
Yeah.
That's something that I still get a kick out of. I love conservatories and greenhouses and plants. Medieval music, like the old school. Like
lutes.
Like we're talking 1300s, you know. Yeah. Myriad is where the summer doth last and all that jazz. Those pop hits from 800 years ago. Things like that. So is there a way, what I want you guys out there to do is to list some of the things, no matter how wacky it is, that you have an intense passion for. Now, this should make you feel a little lighter when you get to this portion, because you've been doing all this stuff about like what I suck at. What do I no longer find joy in? What am I no good at because my body's all broken down or my brain's a little foggy and doesn't work as good as it used to, So the question after that is, so what's left? After all, you've listed all those things, what's left that you could do as a hobby as you age? So for you, what could you do with all the things that you've discovered so far?
Oh, I'm just
that work for you.
I'm gonna keep doing the stuff I already do.
See, it's not a great question for this guy. This guy's got it all figured out.
Well, I don't know that I've got it all figured out. It's just that I've been very fortunate that I discovered something when I was an early teenager that I've kept doing, that I've maintained passion for, that I've met so many great people doing, that I've written songs with so many people that, some of them I'm not even in contact with anymore. I don't know where they're at, but we wrote some great songs in a certain band at a certain time. I'm very fortunate. I'm fortunate that, I always wrote. It was something that my parents they saw that I kind of liked doing, and they encouraged it a lot. So that's been wonderful. And I honestly know how fortunate I am, because not a lot of people have that. A lot of people do kind of go their entire lives like trying things here and there and not really finding something that turns them on. So I am a bad example. I'm somebody that early on figured out the things that I kind of like to do. So I don't know.
See, that's a good thing. And I'm gonna preface this next question. I'm gonna move right on to the next question for you.
Okay.
Because I think it's an important question for everybody out there. Mm-hmm. Because I want this new year for you guys to be a year where you really focus on gratitude. I know that sounds real smoopy poopy, we're way out there, and
it's a
kind of
new year,
hallmarky.
a new start. Be grateful that you've got the opportunity.
Wow.
To do so.
There's so much in your life that you have already accomplished that maybe you don't realize it, because people don't sit around and go, oh, well, I did this and I did that, and they don't write it down on the wall or anything. But I want you guys to seriously sit down, and I'm presenting this question to you too, sir. Can you list some of the goals that you had as a child or as a teenager or as an adult that you have achieved in your lifetime?
I have had books of my poetry published. I have had CDs with songs that I've written and played on be released. Major successes. Am I a star? No, not by any means. But they're things that a lot of folks that do that stuff as a hobby would kill to have. And I understand that. I've played on a bunch of stages with a bunch of different musicians, and I don't take any of that for granted. Anytime I start to feel like self-sorrowful, like, oh, I haven't made it as far as I should, I kind of look back at the things I have done and how many people would kill to have had the opportunity to do some of those things. And it just makes me more grateful and appreciative that I have done those things, had the opportunities that I have, and that's kind of one of the things that keeps me going, is to keep having that opportunity to go out and play and write and do things.
And what about small goals? That things you may consider small, but maybe 8-year-old Scott
8-year-old
thought was unattainable for himself, or wow, that's going to be so far in the future, I don't know if I'll be able to do that or not.
All 8-year-old Scott wanted to do was grow up and be a police officer. That was literally 8-year-old me. That's all I wanted to do, was grow up and follow in my grandfather's footsteps.
Well, you still got a few more years to make that dream happen. Yeah. No, I think that's something that is good to ask yourself and to ask your loved ones or your friends if you're all sitting around and you want something to talk about. Just think about that. Like, for me on here, it's stuff like I wanted to get married. I wanted to be married to a beautiful woman, and I did that. Yeah. That's awesome.
Check that box.
I own a house. I've owned a number of houses, Yeah, it's just goofy things. I wanted to buy a new car that I got to pick out. All my life, I have been driving used cars, clunkers, things that, I could afford at the time.
And part of that was by choice for a number of years.
Part of it became, a stubborn sort of badge of pride, misguided pride. But, it took me 50 years. But I finally bought my own car that I wanted, that I picked out the color and everything. Yeah. Seems dumb. Most of you have already achieved that goal when you were 15 or 16. It's little things.
You know how happy I was for you when you I was, dude, for as happy as you were, I did a little jig here in the house. Yeah.
Thank you. With some other things, I wanted to start my own business, and we've done that. I wanted to own an arcade cabinet, and I did that for a brief time. Now, some of these goals that you achieve, they may not mean anything to you at this point. Maybe it's something that you attained something and you thought the grass was going to be greener when you got to that side, and it wasn't, so you just kept moving on. Yeah. That's like the arcade game. But there's little things, like I graduated from college. Yeah. I got a higher ed degree. I've been on television. I've created work that has made thousands and thousands of people laugh and smile. Yep. Things. Me and you are both in the Hall of Fame.
Well, you are.
I am, but you worked on a program that is a Hall of Fame program.
And I take great pride in that.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things where
it's one of I never hoped for that to happen, but it did, and it's sort of a goal. It's one of those. I never thought that was even a thing.
And see, for me, like, I was a helper. I was a peripheral member of the cast.
You were a cast member.
It was all your idea, and just to have been part of that and to have helped my best friend get to that point was just awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah. That was it was inspiring. Now, this guy played like 1 million characters in the show. He is a Renaissance man. One day we'll do a special and we'll introduce you to all these crazy characters. But these are some things, and there's more on this list. There's probably 20 or 30 things on my list. Yeah. And I think if you're ever feeling down or blue or weirded out, like you're not doing anything with your life, really honestly go back and evaluate from the time you were a sprout to where you are now. What have you accomplished in your life? And I think you'll be quite surprised. You'll be chuffed.
Yeah. And the key is, I think, to be honest with yourself. And basically what you're saying there is a lot of what I learned when I was in therapy because of depression. What my therapist played on with me was my background in philosophy and logic. Like, when you're feeling this way, why? Reason yourself out of it because you have that ability. And I still use those tools. And it's the same thing if you're feeling down, like especially this time of the year, just past Christmas, New Year's, new beginnings, people are going to be making resolutions and stuff. It can really wear you down. So if you get in that rut and you're just feeling like you're slogging through mud, take a look back. Where have I been? Where am I at? Where do I want to go? Yeah. And just by having that conversation with yourself, suddenly you'll look around like, oh, I'm on solid ground again. Because the baggage has been dropped. The lessons are tucked away. You're moving forward again. And I'm not saying it's going to be that easy. You'll have to ask yourself some tough questions and have some good, hard conversations with yourself. But answering honestly, taking a look back is always worthwhile.
Well, and there are always goals that you may not hit.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Some goals are pretty far out, and that leads us into our final question for this one. And this is more just a fun one. I know everybody likes the term bucket list. I hate that term. I really do. I think it focuses on the negative. I think you put that kind of negative idea out there, like I have to do this before I die. before I'm rotting in a box or burned up into ash in a cardboard container. Yeah, that sucks. I mean, nobody wants to think about that.
In a ditch by the side of the road.
Yeah, exactly. Forgotten and rotting in a bed somewhere. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, check up on your older friends is what we're saying.
Check up on your Gen X friends.
The final question was presented as far out and crazy goals. Far out and crazy goals that are not really necessary to your life per se, but it's just some crazy thing that you've always wanted to do, maybe since you were a kid, maybe since yesterday. You thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this sometime in the future while I still can? I think this is a fun exercise for you because you may find something in that list that you can actually attain. And it gives you another goalpost to shoot towards. So how about you, Scott? What are some far out crazy things that you would like to do that you know may not happen, but you think it'd be fun?
To do a short tour with the band, because I just got back together with a couple friends I had a band with in the early 2000s, and we wrote a lot of cool stuff, and that's the basis for what we're doing now. And the thing is, we're all better and wiser now. And it's really coming together. Like it's good stuff. Mm-hmm. To be able to take that and just do a short tour with it, to go out and actually do that a little bit and live that life a little bit would be just fantastic.
All right. Do you think that's something that's possible to attain?
I think it is possible. If we're talking about this in terms of SMART goals. And
no, we're talking about this as crazy goals.
Well,
so.
But even crazy goals have to be a little bit smart. Yeah, I do. Attainability, achievability is one of those things. Like, I want to be an astronaut. I'm never going to be an astronaut. I'm setting myself up to fail there. But could I go on a tour with a great band? Yeah, I could. Take a lot of work, take a lot of effort, but I've got the right people with me. I think we could do it. So, yeah.
Any other crazy goals?
For this show to just explode and for us to have listeners all over the world that keep coming back because they enjoy what we do.
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, one of mine is I always wanted to be a lounge singer.
Cool.
Like one of those skeezy, big collared.
Like Richard Cheese?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
That's, that's something dumb. I always wanted to join an outlaw motorcycle gang.
You got to have a motorcycle.
A one percenter. First I have to become an outlaw, and then I have to become a guy who can ride a bike. Okay,
so sometime this summer, if you see two motorcycles riding down the road and it looks like us, you'll know we're looking for other members of the club.
Just goofy crap like that. I always wanted to make a low-budget direct-to-video, but now it's direct-to-streaming movie with real actors.
Yeah.
Not like just friends and people on the side of the road kind of thing. I want to be able to hire real crappy B-movie actors. So that's all I can afford.
You mean highly touted professional B-movie actors?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Artisans of their craft.
Yes, the people that we met at conventions.
Buxom topless artisans of their craft. Those thespians. I want to have a religious experience. That's something on my crazy goal list. And it's something that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
But I want to have an experience where I feel without a doubt some sort of certainty in this cosmos. I don't know if that's possible. I know people have had those, so that it could happen. I don't know.
See, that kind of stuff to me is like, that's why I'll go outside and just look up at the stars.
Sure.
And do stuff like that because
I want bushes on fire. I want angels trumpeting and demons jumping out of black portals in the wall. I want something. I want aliens to land. I want something wild.
Here's something helpful for you. That shit doesn't happen.
Oh, I don't know. I want to drive a bulldozer.
Well, you can make that happen.
I don't know why. I want a custom 70s van with
You had your chance.
I had my chance. It's true, and I blew it. I could have had Vandolph, the classic California D&D van for a mere $28,000.
And folks, did he pull the trigger?
I didn't.
No.
Because I'd have to go all the way to California to get it and then drive it back.
Who was willing to go with you?
I know. I know. I just figured I'd get halfway into the Badlands and the thing would blow up on me. Then I'd have to play D&D with the coyotes. No, just goofy crap like that. And I know some of these things are quite attainable.
Yeah.
But they still spark a level of wonderment and joy. Now, are those the kind of goals where it's the grass is always greener on the other side? Yeah, probably some of those are. Yeah. Would it really make a difference in my life to have a van with a barbarian painted on the side of it?
Absolutely,
I don't know.
Would.
I mean, maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't.
I think they still have places like this where you can go and get taught the basics and drive a bulldozer and stuff and just move stuff around.
Yeah, so. They have one of those parks somewhere up in Pennsylvania, I think, just in the middle of nowhere.
I will tell you.
Heavy equipment.
I don't think you will find it nearly as entertaining as you think you will.
Just moving earth. I don't know. And I know some of our listeners out there, some of the people I grew up with, that's what you do for a living. Yeah. And you think it's mundane. Imagine there are people out there who are like, man, wouldn't that be cool to drive a friggin' steam shovel or a crane?
The other thing I always wanted to do as a kid, not just be a police officer. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a train engineer.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. My grandfather was a train engineer.
Yeah, and your dad worked on the railroad, and we've got friends right now from high school, school that work on the railroad. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was something I always wanted to do.
Boy, go deaf. And those things, they were loud. Yeah. But yeah, I always wanted to work one of those cranes on a dock that pick up the big
shipping containers.
Shipping containers. That's it. But those crazy ones where you're like a million miles up in the air and hovering over these things and picking them up and stacking them. I don't know why. I thought it'd be really fun.
You know, the weird thing about cranes, and this is just kind of off topic, but sort of on topic. I took a class to operate cranes. Oh. And so when you see somebody using a crane and they've got the, everything up in the air, you can't really watch the load against the sky because you don't have any perspective. Mm. You have to watch the controls and use that, so you're looking down a lot of the time.
Oh, that's no fun.
Because if you're just looking against
the
blue sky,
swinging it wildly around.
No, okay. No, you can't. You kind of have to use the controls and stuff to maintain your perspective on where the load is.
Looney Tunes betrayed me all these years.
Yeah, very much. Yes.
All right. So that's the final question. I want you guys to actually think about some wild and crazy things that you've always had a bug up your butt for. Maybe it's something you just learned about that you want to do, and think about that for this new year, because this is a whole new year. You got 12 months. They're going to go by in the blink of an eye. I'm telling you, like a summer storm. Boom, it's going to blow through.
And then you're just going to be wet.
Yeah, you'll be wet and another year older. So, because time really compresses at our age.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it's frightening that we're already at the end of the year. Like we're at the beginning of a new year.
Frighteningly so.
Yeah, it just boom. And what the heck happened this year? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I barely remember what happened this morning.
So maybe take some of these questions. I hope you don't mind we gave Meg the day off, and but take some of these questions and write some stuff down for yourself. Kind of do a little self-evaluation. Do a little psychonaut self-exploration. Get in there. Dig around in that dark thing you call your head. And tell me what you find. Drop us a line and let us know some of your wildest, weirdest, goals or wants.
Where do you want to be at this point next year? What things do you want to have accomplished when we kind of do a recap show again and kind of we'll go back and listen to this show next year before New Year's.
Oh my gosh, we're putting us on the spot.
And see what kind of responses we have.
Yeah. But if you want to join my outlaw motorcycle gang too, drop me a line.
That too.
Let me know. We'll come up with a cool name and everything.
And on that note, we will bid you adieu for this year and this episode. We hope everyone has a wonderful new year. Until we catch you next time, my name is Scott.
And I'm Bunny.
Have a good one.